Washington has dismissed claims by Hamas that it agreed to a new ceasefire deal in Gaza. The group said it accepted a proposal from the U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff involving a 70-day truce and the release of 10 Israeli hostages. But Witkoff called Hamas' response disappointing and completely unacceptable, adding that the group had not agreed to his actual terms. Israel too rejected the plan, stating no responsible government could agree to the conditions amid stalled negotiations. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reaffirmed his commitment to recover all hostages from Gaza, both living and dead, vowing, "We are not giving up." Let's listen in to the Israeli Prime Minister.
יש קשיים. החמאס עיקש, הוא סרבן, כך אמר גם הנציג האמריקני הערב, ויטקוף, זה נכון. אנחנו לא מרפים מהמשימה. אנחנו החזרנו עד היום 148 חטופים חיים. ויש עוד 20 בוודאות שהם חיים. ויש גם אחרים שאינם בחיים. ואנחנו מתכוונים להחזיר את כולם. אז, כך היום, נכריע את מבקשי נפשנו, נשיב את כל חטופינו, נוודא שעזה לא תהווה איום על ישראל.
Tensions continued to rise in Jerusalem as far-right Israelis chanted "Death to Arabs" and clashed with Palestinians during the annual Jerusalem Day parade. Opposition leader Yair Lapid condemned the event as a festival of hatred and racism. We have Joshua Barnes, anchor and correspondent, joining us live from New Delhi. Joshua, what can you tell us more about this situation?
Well, yes, absolutely. Assuming there have been some developments from those breaking news updates that we brought you late yesterday. Of course, reports saying that Hamas had agreed to Steve Witkoff's proposal, which could see the release of 10 hostages in exchange for a 70-day truce. Some clarification today from the United States saying that this is not the case. Now, this, of course, comes on the backdrop of a continued offensive by Israel in the Gaza Strip, which has seen, if we believe reports that are coming from Hamas-run health ministries, over 50,000 deaths to Palestinians living within the enclave. Also concerns over the humanitarian crisis. Starvation is a topic that has been raised by many humanitarian groups given an 11-week aid blockade that was in place. Aid is being now brought into Gaza, but the amount of aid that's needed, experts say and humanitarian groups say that the aid that's coming in is just a drop in the ocean compared to what is needed after an extended blockade lasting months. The Israeli offensive has moved forward amid discussions ongoing over a potential ceasefire. In recent weeks, Benjamin Netanyahu says that his goal is to take control of Gaza in order to achieve his key aims, which are disbanding Hamas, disarming Hamas, and making sure that an attack like October the 7th can't continue. This, of course, with hostages still being held by the armed group based in Gaza. Over 50 hostages, both dead and alive, currently being held within the Gaza Strip. This is something rare, very rarely seen in conflict for the dead hostages to be remained in captivity. They are normally returned, and when we did have hostage releases, it was a show. Hamas put on a stage and had members of their group in black outfits. The process was extremely difficult for Israelis, and Benjamin Netanyahu during that ceasefire period said that if hostages weren't released after phase 1, then military action would resume, and that is what we have seen. Looking broader now at these conversations that have been had around potential peace, of course, Egypt and Qatar have been mediating conversations that have still been ongoing. The US have also been involved as well. Steve Witkoff, his proposal is what sources were saying Hamas had agreed to. Now originally this proposal was for around 42 days of ceasefire with the release of hostages in return, which would have allowed both parties to continue having negotiations over a longer lasting peace. It also would have meant that there would have been an impasse in the fighting, which has caused devastation across the Gaza Strip. It seems from the US confirmation that these sources and these reports that Hamas had agreed to that Witkoff proposal, it seems not to be the case. A glimmer of hope was there, though Israel, of course, need to agree to this as well. And Benjamin Netanyahu has been very clear. He doesn't want a partial release of hostages. He wants all of the hostages to be released. He wants Hamas to be disbanded. Until that is the case, I think violence in the region will continue with IDF action continuing. We know it has stepped up recently, in recent weeks. The strength and the amount of strikes at land and air which are taking place has intensified. Within a 48-hour period, there were 200 IDF strikes on areas that they say Hamas operatives are running in. These are civilian areas. This has been a consistent theme throughout the conflict. Israel say Hamas are hiding in civilian infrastructure, whether that's schools and shelters, hospitals. It's very, very difficult for Israel, as they say, to specifically target Hamas without civilian casualties. Discussions will continue, conversations around a ceasefire will continue, but ultimately it needs to be agreed by all sides, and probably needs to see a disarmament and a disbandment of Hamas in order for Israel to agree to any deal.
Thank you very much for joining us, Joshua Barnes. And we now